how did you choose your seat today? So I see a bunch of you stayed near the entrance to be the first one at the bar. Or some of you just like the front seat so they can stretch their legs. Or maybe you prefer to sit near the aisle so you can get up at any time you want. Well, this pretty much comes down to our each preferences. And you may ask yourself, what is this particular seat worth to me? Well, the decision you made today pretty much applies to a regular flight too. Well, we have heard about easyJet before. I'm not going into detail now, but if you look around, this room pretty much looks like an airplane, right? The room is narrow, quite long. You have a lot of chairs, a lot of people. It's an airplane. Just that at an easyJet flight, pretty much everyone can get a seat and doesn't have to stand behind. Anyways, let's have a look at two particular typical customers of easyJet. We have John on the left. He's a manager. He needs to go to Edinburgh pretty fast, and he has to be there for an important meeting tomorrow. On the right, we have me. I'm in a holiday mood. I'm going with my family and two lovely kids to Madeira. Now, we are very different customers with very different needs. John, for example, he is very keen to get one of those front row seats. So he gets speedy boarding. He has ample leg room to work on his laptop. But unfortunately, he sees that all of those front row seats are already taken. Although maybe he would spend any money on that because his company is paying anyway. On the right-hand side, there's me and my family, and we probably want to sit somewhere up front. So you still get the speedy boarding, you get an extra piece of hand luggage, which comes in really handy if you're traveling with two kids. And my little girl can choose a seat at the window, which is nice. However, those seats on this flight are quite expensive. And they are not only expensive for us, also for many other holiday travelers on that plane. So what you see here is that the offers for seats do not optimally match the needs of the customers. And what you actually would expect is that the pricing somehow follows the demand, which is actually quite hard, because how can you know about the demand before the flight takes off? Well, this is where machine learning can actually help you. With a machine learning model, knowing about details of the flight, of the route, of the seats, of the pricing, you can get a pretty good picture on the demand. And this demand then tells you how to price those seats. For an example, you can pretty much estimate the final demand for ticket sales from day 0 until departure. But as those two examples, the flight to Madeira and Edinburgh, show you how the customers actually book their tickets, and actually when they book it, they are pretty much different. So holiday travelers book earlier, whereas the customers from businesses who schedule their meetings quite late, they come in later. So how does the model now perform to get this time dependence of your demand? Well, actually not that good. Using the same model as before, predicting on the demand on days leading to the departure, the performance is not that good. So how can you improve on that? For that, in the last 6 weeks, I was working on a dynamic model which can do a pretty better job in predicting the time dependence of the customer demand. And this relies on a machine learning model using the same features as before on the flight and the route to predict the demand of the first month. Now, after this first month has passed, you use the actual bookings you observed, feed it into your machine learning model, and this then can give a much better estimate for the demand for the second month. Now, doing this over and over again, feeding more and more information on the history of the flight to your machine learning model, your predictions get more and more accurate. Now, as you can see, for the same example I showed you before, a dynamic model can improve the prediction accuracy by about 40% compared to a static model. Now, this is about tickets. Let's go back to the seats. And actually, seats is a little bit more complex topic, because if you look at a standard easyJet flight, you have about 4 seating categories. So a machine learning model now has to predict multiple values at the same time. if you look at this curve here, you can see how customers actually select their seats. And it's broken down into the different categories. And this trend pretty much follows the ticket sales, as you would expect. Using the dynamic model I just explained to you, you get this trend for each of those categories pretty well for an average flight. Now, looking at particular flights, again, the flight to Madeira and Edinburgh, you see how the model performs compared to a static model shown in gray. So this shows you we have a pretty good understanding of the time development of customer demand, which we then can use for our pricing. For the pricing, you can use your machine learning model and simulate different price points for the different seating categories. Your machine learning model then can expect a predicted demand. And doing this over and over again for a bunch of price combinations, you can select those price combinations which give you the perfect balance between demand and price. So this optimal price you can then set before the tickets go on sale. And each month, you can update your price to keep up with the demand. So this dynamic model then can eventually lead to a better pricing strategy for seating allocations at easyJet, which is great for easyJet, but it's also great for the customers. John is happy now because with the demand-driven pricing, those seats where you see high demand will be available for those who really need them, like John. But also my family and many other holiday travelers benefit too, because those seats where you see low demand on those holiday routes with a lot of price-sensitive travelers, those seats will drop in price. So if you have any further questions, I'm happy to meet you at the bar later. And I'm really looking forward to my vacation with easyJet starting tomorrow. Thank you.